Hi, it's Mark from Top Local. We're here with Bernie Pawlik of Pawlik Automotive, Vancouver's best auto service experience. They're 16-time winners of Best Auto Repair in Vancouver, as voted by their customers. How you doing, Bernie?
I'm doing very well this morning.
You had a issue, I guess. This week's car repair of the week is a 2005 Mercedes-Benz E320. That had some electrical issues. What was going on with this Mercedes?
Well, there was a few things, some interesting things. First of all, the vehicle was brought to us because the owner was concerned about some rodent-chewed wires under the hood. He was also concerned that his battery would go dead overnight. And there was a couple of dash lights and lights in the vehicle that remained on. The gear shifter light and a couple of other things stayed on. So these were his concerns. So we proceeded to have a look at them and do some diagnosis.
So that sounds like that's a number of possible things occurring. So where did you start?
Well, where we started first was a visual inspection under the hood of the rodent-chewed wires. Unfortunately, it turned out it was really minor. They just nibbled on a bit of the outside of an insulation of a couple of wires, so we taped it up, and that was fixed and done. And that had no cause for any of the other concerns in the vehicle. The next step was to hook a diagnostic scan tool up and do a full vehicle system scan. You can scan all the modules of this vehicle. A lot of modern cars give you that capability. You can scan the whole car. We do that a lot in diagnosis. So we look and see which modules have trouble codes. We found a few that were related to the body control and the CAN system. So that's where we started with our issue. We also verified that there was a 4-amp power draw from the battery when the key was shut off. So that's huge. That'll kill a battery pretty fast.
So a CAN or CAN system, what's that?
So a CAN bus, it stands for Controlled Area Network, and it's a communication system used in vehicles that communicate between various modules. So, I mean, your car, on this Mercedes, there's probably at least 10 to 15 different modules there's modules for body control, there's modules for lights, there's modules for the power door locks, the suspension system, anti-lock brakes. There's a number of modules, and they all communicate with each other over this sort of, it's like a pair of two wires, and they communicate data signals back and forth. So it saves on an awful lot of wiring and it allows a lot of complexity in a vehicle. CAN it's used in a variety of different vehicles, not just Mercedes unique, but they were early adopters like they are for a lot of different technologies. So the problem with the system, some of the codes we're getting seem to be related to the CAN bus system. There was communication errors going on.
So that sounds real similar to my previous life where I worked in processor design. So that sounds like it could be pretty complex.
It is a very complex system. I mean, it requires a computer the scan tool to be, and a good quality one to work with the system. So once we have that, it works pretty well. But yeah, there's a lot of complexity, but we have the tools and equipment to fix it. So yeah, that was the area where we started our diagnosis, and looking at the CAN bus system, and the way the diagnostic procedure works with this, is we disconnect different modules to see which one might be causing the system error. Any particular module can cause the other ones to misbehave, so to speak. So it's a matter of disconnecting the modules and finding out where the error lies. Where these lights were staying on and where the excessive battery drain was.
Okay, that sounds like a lot of work. What did you do next?
Well, we disconnected everything, and it's got kind of frustrating because the power drain was still there and the lights were still remaining on. So we basically ruled out any actual problem with the CAN bus, even though the codes were all from that area. And at this point, we were really at the point of disconnecting various components in the vehicle, unrelated items. And what we found was very interesting. Something completely unrelated, nothing that gave us any clue, but the radiator fan was actually causing the whole issue. The radiator fan is an electric fan, so there's 4 wires, two like a power and a ground, and a couple of communication, signal wires to turn the fan on and off. The fan wasn't running, it wasn't buzzing, it wasn't doing anything. But yet, once we unhooked that, all the problems went away, which is really, really bizarre.
Okay, that sounds a bit crazy. Sounds like a do-it-yourself repair gone wrong.
Well, yeah. So the do-it-yourself thing. So after that, after we figured it out, we called the owner because we looked at the fan and it looked quite new. So we thought, this is interesting. It looks like this part's been replaced. So we quizzed the owner and he said, yeah, back about a few months ago in the summer, the radiator fan motor was dead. So I replaced it myself. He did a great job, by the way, installed it nicely. It just come to think of it, that's kind of when all the issues started happening. So the fan motor was defective. So I'll just actually just share a couple of photos while we're here. So this should, there's our Mercedes E320. Nice four-door Mercedes sedan. This is the fan motor assembly. So it's the electrical connectors on the right-hand side where my mouse is pointing. And yeah, that's basically the unit. So let me just, are we back again, Mark? Are we?
Yep.
Okay, good. So where do we leave this? Yeah, so that's basically it. We've we've installed a new fan motor. All the lights were off. Battery drained down to about 30 milliamps, I believe. Perfectly normal, and car worked great.
So what do we learn from this kind of experience?
That's a very good question that you ask. And what do we learn is, I mean, we as technicians, we just follow a diagnostic procedure based on the best information we have. So we got to start somewhere. There was codes for the CAN bus and various systems, so we followed that. But what would have been really useful is for the owner to have said, one thing that I did do was I did change the radiator fan and the problem seemed to happen. Now people tend to forget that that anything's relevant, and it wouldn't seem like it was relevant. But if you have a vehicle, you have a problem that needs to be fixed, and it's it's good to think back of anything that may have happened recently. When does the issue occur? Is it hot, cold, after running for 10 minutes? Those kind of bits of information are really, really helpful for us to diagnose the vehicle. So often we get a car and it isn't doing what the owner says, and after we look at it for an hour, and it costs money for the customer to look. We look at, oh, well, it did this, and so if you can think of everything before you bring the vehicle in, write it down, really think hard, think twice. That'll save you some money for sure. And help us do the job.
This brings up an obvious, perhaps, question, but was the fan actually running?
No.
Did the fan motor work? Oh, yeah. So it was a pretty obvious thing that the repair never really worked, or it worked for a while and stopped?
No, I think the fan was working fine. It just, as far as our diagnostic, we never needed to even look at the fan because there was nothing. Normally, if there's a fan malfunction, on a Mercedes, it's pretty sophisticated. It'll actually set a trouble code for a malfunction, but it didn't. So yeah, the fan I believe was probably working fine if you warmed the engine up, but we never even got to that point because we're chasing a power draw. And normally, if the fan was actually running, while the key was off, you go, okay, well, there's a problem there. It's some kind of electrical fault inside the unit. Again, these things have like little control units inside, some little malfunction. So, honesty, would you have caught that if you had installed a bad fan motor? Well, we would have, I think we would have. We would have, and certainly if we would have installed it, there would have been no charge to the customer. So this is where sometimes I think you can save a lot of money by fixing stuff yourself, but in the end, it cost this person a lot more money because they had to pay a lot of money to diagnose a problem that was a result of a faulty part that they put in the vehicle. So, had we installed that, yeah, there'd be no extra charge. So bottom line is it costs more money to have a car repaired at a shop, but then you can do yourself. But, any good shop will back their work up. Now some don't, but, we do. So we care to make sure we install good quality parts and we do the job properly. So there you go. Pawlik Automotive in Vancouver. If you need service on your vehicle and you want a warranty and quality repairs from people who really know what they're doing, these are the guys to call in Vancouver.
604-327-7112 to book ahead. They're always busy. Or check out their website, pawlikautomotive.com. We have years of these hangouts there. Tons of information on every make and model of car that we could possibly do so far. Thanks, Bernie.
Thanks, Mark.